Hello everyone, welcome to the new episode of Touchdesigner tutorials. In this video we are creating a new generative image from noise, and at the end of the video we use a displacement map to create a kind of a 3D environment. So let's start. First I add a constant from chop. In the constant, instead of channel name I'll write X and I add another channel and I change the name to Y. I want to use these two for my image size, so here I write 1280, 1280 for both. Now I add a noise from top, and first thing I go to common, and here for resolution X I drop the X channel, choose chop reference, and for the Y channel and choose chop reference. So now we have this. Here in noise I change the period to 1.2 and I lower down the offset to 0. I increase the amplitude and I put it on 1.5. Now in transform I go to transform Z. You can write it here or here. Apps time dot seconds, and I multiply it to 0.5. Now we have this one. Now I add another noise and I lower down the offset to 0, change the amplitude to 1.15 and change the period to 3. Now in transform again we copy the expression and we paste it here. Now I add a null here, so from here I'm going to start a feedback loop. I add a feedback, I add a displace, connect the feedback to both input, I add a level and add a composite. Now from node 1 we connect to the composite also, change the operation to over and drop the composite on top of the feedback. Now it's here, you can also just drop it here. Now let's lower down the opacity in the level. So we have this, and here we also change the displace weight. Let's put a very small number, 0.01 for the X and 0.1 005 for the Y. Now we get this. Now if we want to get like a moving forward, we can change the UV weight. We put it on 0.99. We can also, let's do this like minus. Okay. Now after the composite, I add a beller. I connect the composite to this beller, and it's like 2 for pre-shrink and 8 for filter size. Now here I add an edge, and I connect the composite also to this edge. Let's lower down the number to 0.8, and first I will add a node. I connect this edge to the node because I want to see what's going on. We can also divide our display and see the results here. Right click, go to display and turn off backdrop tops. So we have this here. After the edge, I add a beller and 3 for pre-shrink and 23 for filter size. Now add a level and brightness 1.1, 1.6, and contrast I will put it on 1.4. Now let's add another beller, pre-shrink on 3 and filter size on 50. So we have this blurrish edge. Now let's add a composite and connect the edge also to the composite and put the operation on add. Now look at this. So you can make it a bit lighter, like the below part. Now we have this beller here. We add another composite and to connect this beller also to this composite. Change the operation to difference. Now look at this. Let's add a level and increase the contrast. I think 1.3 is kind of good. Let's change this back. So now this is what we got. So it's kind of, it looks like a 3D shape, but it's not 3D. but now we want to make it 3D. So we want to use this texture as displacement map to create a 3D shape from it. So now here is what we have so far. Now here I add a grid from Sub, and let's pause this. So we can use this X and Y resolution for rows and columns, but be careful with these numbers. If you think that maybe your computer might crash, just go up slowly. But here I add the X to rows and the Y to columns. I also add this to size X and size Y, but they're like very large numbers, so I multiply them to 0.001. 0.001. So it's important to have like this numbers that are related to each other, because if we later want to change the size, for example, if we want to change this, then here you will also get the same shape. Now let's continue. I add a attribute create after the grid, and from comp I add a geometry. So this is smaller, and I add a camera and ambient light plus light. So now I go to top and I add a render. So this is our render. Let's connect this render to the node. Now first let's fit this in. I go to the size here and I use the same size for my render resolution. Now in geometry I will scale the geometry with uniform scale to 2.5, and in camera here I change the Z, translate Z to 4, so we're almost there. Let's change this to 2.7. So now if we change the ambient light, we see that we get like less bright, and here we can also change the light position. Now we add a foam material from here. And I drop the material on top of my geometry and I choose palm material. Now this is foam. I want to use, first let's move this a bit down. I want to use this image, the video that we create here, for our texture. So from top, I add a node. I connect this level to the node. Now you're here. Okay, so I change the name to call. Now in font, I connect this. I drop this into the color map. Now we got the texture on our grid. And I bring a normal map. I connect this level to normal map. In font here, I drop the normal map. Now it gets very dark because here the attribute create that we added here needs to have compute normals and compute tangents, so we turn this on. Now we got this. If we change the Z scale, we get like more normal map with lower numbers and less normal map with higher numbers. So let's keep it here for now. Now here I enable the high map, the parallax collision, and the displace vertices. Now let's add a level. Connect this level to the new level. And let's add a node. I change this to this, and I drop this here in high map. Now we get the high map. So let's change this level. We put the brightness on 1.1 and the contrast on 1.1. And we can here change the displace scale and change the displace midpoint. You see when midpoint is 0 and when it's 1. Now let's connect this before the level here. Okay, now in the lights here, we go to lights. Our light type is on point light. We go to shadows, we turn on the shadows and put it on soft 2D map. Now we have shadows. Now let's change the light position. I think it's kind of nice here. We can also change the light size. See if we get like very high numbers, We get a more smooth shadows also. I will put it on. Let's see. Let's keep it here. We can also lower down the dimmer. Here we can also change the light. We can put it on con light and get bigger. Now we can add a level after our render. And change the brightness to 1.08. We can keep the gamma on 1 and change the contrast to 1.6. Now I add a ramp, and here I add a lookup. Let's connect the ramp to the second input of the lookup. Here we can change the color to a bit yellowish, and in the middle I add a more blue one. Yeah. Now here I add a level. I connect this to the level. I lower down the brightness to 0.85. Increase the gamma to 1.55. Contrast on 3.3. And here in RGBA I just turn off the alpha. Now I add a bevel, 6 for pre-shrink and 27 for filter size. Now let's add another level after the bevel, and let's lower down the brightness to 0.8, gamma to 0.65, and contrast on 2. So we get this. Now we add a composite, and I connect this level, change it to soft light. Add another composite and connect the lookup. Let's connect this here, and I put it on negative. Now we get these effects. So it's up to you if you want to use the black and white with these like kind of lights on it, or you want to use the color one directly without these, but kind of like this one. We can also change, lower down the camera, brightness. So I'm just playing around. So I think this one is better, but anyways. This is also without this level. So I think this level is good, but maybe it's very strong. And yeah. I think that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.